Our view right now is that in the digital healthcare market, there's a number of players who are doing well, but they're all focused on, fragmented pieces of healthcare. My view is over the next 3 to 7 years, whichever companies do the best job of building a complete health ecosystem, I think they're the companies who ultimately become the leaders in the space or the most attractive businesses.
So the race is on.
So yeah, there's a race on.
Nic, welcome. Entrepreneur of the Year. I tried to do that when I was in my 30s, so obviously I wasn't good enough to make it. But we just discussed before, you won Entrepreneur of the Year for Queensland and then Australia, so you gotta be doing something right.
Yeah, I guess we've had a pretty solid growth for the last 2 years since we launched Midnight Health, and I guess it's good to get some industry recognition of that.
I think, obviously I know you through cars, and which is interesting. I've met so many amazing people through cars. I guess we all have probably similar interests as well. So obviously getting to watching you through cars, and then stuff pops up on the net. 1, Entrepreneur of the Year. 2, your company that you started 2 years ago, you have raised $16 million. Tell us, who is Nic? Who is Entrepreneur of the Year sitting in front of me? Because this story is powerful, because you're still very young, 36 years old. There's so many people that are watching this that one day want to start their own business. And this is not your first business, by the way. And 2, it is inspiring watching somebody who's Entrepreneur of the Year. And I know the competition you had. You were not only a good person that trying to win that award. There were so many amazing people. And 2, you have also raised $16 million, which I don't think is easy in any business. Who is Nic?
Look, I guess I'll start from the start, right? I launched my first startups in 2008. My very first business that I launched...
Which is not the best time, because financial crisis knocking on the door.
Well, yeah, the catalyst for me starting my own business was actually the one that I was working for was running out of money.
Right.
So we were coming into a financial crisis, and the company I was working for was running out of money, and so then myself and 2 other people that I was working with, went, look, I don't want to ride the sinking ship till the end. Let's go out and try and do our own thing.
Yes.
And so then the first week of starting that business, our previous employer at the time then had his lawyer contact us about shutting it down or trying to seek damages for us starting another company.
Yes.
I think it was more as a result of them being in desperation.
Yes.
But long story short, my first startup had existed for 3 days, and I had a lawyer contact me saying we owed our previous employer $200,000.
And that's the first business.
That's the first business I started.
And starting a first business, it's not a pleasant moment to have a lawyer contact you 3 days later asking for money, and all you're thinking to yourself, fuck, I just need to go and make $1 myself first before you sue me.
Yeah, and so that's how it started. And so we ended up shutting that.
Welcome to business world.
Yeah, welcome to startup life, right? So we shut that down a few days later. We ended up going, it wasn't worth the battle. Shut it down. And then decided, we've jumped head first into the startup game now, so let's keep going. And so we spent 2008, 2009 starting a whole bunch of different things on online gaming sites, content websites. We tried to start a little kind of web development agency, doing a few different things. But if I look back now at that point in time, I had nowhere near the knowledge required to be able to actually turn any of those things into a properly successful business.
But when you're starting, the energy level and enthusiasm and us thinking we can conquer the world, it's a different story.
And I think I still maintain that enthusiasm now, right?
And you have to.
And you have to.
Because you will never know everything when you're starting. I'm assuming even the business that you are starting now, you didn't know everything on the day one.
Yeah, no, you don't. And so, I got to the end of a couple of years of lots of failed things, but I also even look back now and go, that's a period in my life where I learnt so much. I learnt so much in that 2 years of failures and trying this and trying that. Ultimately ended up running out of money, had to go get a job. So that was a sad day. But then spent 18 months looking after marketing at Flight Centre. And then I was ready to do it all again, I guess. So it didn't last long in having a job and looking for the next opportunity. And then I left there to launch a marketing agency in 2011 called Search Factory. And so launched Search Factory, grew that business, started a couple of other things along the way once Search Factory kind of got some momentum, and then ended up selling that business. We were acquired by a global media group called Dentsu in 2016, went into an earnout that finished in 2019. So it was a long earnout, but ultimately, if you back yourself to deliver over that time, you have a better end result. And so we managed to do that, grew over a year, and then exited that. And so as I was coming towards the end of 2019 and exiting one business, I was already like, what am I going to do next? And looking at the next thing that I thought...
There was no plans of slowing down.
No, not at all. I think, I guess I could have got to that period and said, let's have a break for a little bit.
Yes.
But I don't know. I think even if I was thinking that way at one point, it slowly, as soon as I start following an idea or something, then it just keeps snowballing into.
Which is interesting. There's
right?
a lot of what I would call us serial entrepreneurs. There's so many people that I've interviewed that sold their businesses for crazy amount of money, and you think, okay, it's enough. One of the gentlemen that I interviewed sold his business for over 150 million, and you think to yourself, okay, that's enough to at least take a couple of years break and maybe start something. No, straight away. So any business person that finished his journey or sold his business with whatever, straight away jumps into the next thing.
Yeah, because I think it's about, it's not about the money, right? Like you do it because you enjoy it.
Yes.
Like I love the process and the challenge of going, can I take an idea from nothing that doesn't exist at all and go on the wild journey to turn it into something at the end? And I think that's what, I love that period of business.
So did
that's
you have
what I enjoy.
break at all when you finished your...
A couple of months before we started building the new business.
Yes.
And in reality, that couple of months was still putting the plans together for the new one.
So starting from young age, starting your couple of businesses, and we actually had this discussion before camera started rolling out. Somebody asked me, would I invest money into somebody who is 20 years old, who never failed, or somebody that failed 5 times? I said I would invest money into somebody that had 5 fuck-ups, if I can call them like that, because he's got enough experience and probably built himself up in a more, I guess, bulletproof individual that should know what he's doing by now. So with you, every little mistake that you made, it just kept, helping you with future starting something that's more successful. Yeah. So a few years ago, 2.5 years ago, really, new business, what is it?
Yeah, so Midnight Health, we're a digital healthcare platform. So effectively what we're trying to build is a complete health ecosystem that starts digitally first. So right now we do telehealth prescriptions, medication delivery across a range of different conditions. So we have 4 different brands. We've got Yuerli, focused on women's healthcare. As part of that, we launched Australia's first emergency contraception delivery service. Also do scripts for contraceptive pill, thrush treatments, herpes treatments, things like that. We've launched a men's brand called Stagger, another brand called Hub.Health, which is kind of focused on providing digital health for the whole family. And then a 4th brand called Vitality, which is like a personalized gut health supplement that we've launched.
All in 2 years' time.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and also, not to mention, within those 2 years' time, you've also raised $16 million as well. So your growth, clearly, you guys are growing fast. How do you manage the growth? Because with online business, it's harder to control it. I always compare any online business to typical accountant. Because if you have accounting practice, you might have 3 staff, and you can control how much you're going to grow by how many clients you take on. So you can say, look, we want to double our business, so we can take a little bit more clients, so business is bigger. But with your business, your race is constantly on because you can just grow overnight a lot faster, correct?
Yeah, and the challenge is that as a business that is raising capital, our mentality is to grow as fast as possible and work it out.
Yes.
So we don't even want to slow down growth. We're going, how can we grow harder and faster, and how can we get ourselves to the next capital raise, or how can we make our growth graph look like that, as steep as possible. So that comes with its own challenges, because the whole business needs to have the mentality of how do we grow harder and faster at all times, and try and pull all the things together along the way underneath it to support the customer growth and customer support and rolling out new products and services.
Not to mention
doctors
hiring new employees to actually maintain the growth as well.
So it's a challenge, but it's also the exciting part of the challenge, right?
Yes.
Can you do that? And you've got to hire the right people and have a really good foundational team that can help you get there.
So looking back now, specifically over your short journey with a new business, just over 2 years, what challenges does any startup face?
Look, I mean, I think one of your biggest challenges, even in many cases, is your resourcing, right? How do you distribute resources? Where is the right place to put it? Especially in an early stage, because most startups are trying to build an MVP, get something to market. It's there's many different paths you can take in terms of where you put your resources onto. Should you focus entirely on customer experience? Do we build a great customer experience? Do we focus on building new products or services?
And you can't build everything at once.
Yeah, you can't. And so, even now, we're going through this challenge, and I expect for the next 5 years we'll be going through the same
Yes.
challenge. Where do we put our time versus long-term ambitions versus the product we have now, and working out how we distribute the people, the resources, the funds to be able to focus on the right things at the right time.
Especially
is one
when
of
it
the biggest
comes
challenges.
to, you know, raising money as well.
Yeah.
So you kind of got this race on, you have to keep growing, and at the same time you're going to be spending money, but if you don't have that growth, it'd be hard for you to raise more money.
Exactly.
So you constantly have to be on your toes, full stop. How hard was for you to raise money?
So that's one of the hardest things I've ever done in business.
Because the reason why I say that, because I think the life that we are living in right now, I think we have more entrepreneurs than ever, simply because we have access to information. Before, I don't know, 20 odd years ago, you were much, you know, 6, 7 years younger than me, but 20 odd years ago, access to information wasn't available like it is today. You know, even to learn anything. So only way we can learn 20 odd years ago was by watching TV, reading newspapers, whatever you hear from your friends or at school. So I didn't think even entrepreneur word existed 25 years ago, if you ask me. Now, there's so many people that are, for example, following you on social media or me, and they can see what we are doing, they can see the life that we're living, and that hopefully might inspire them for them to do something as well. And if they decide to start their own business, so much information on Google. Anything you want, you can find out within a second. Saying that, a lot of people do get excited and they straight away want to raise money. How hard is it?
Look, I naively thought I had a bit of a track record, right? I'd sold my last business, I'd bootstrapped a couple of things.
Which gave you credibility.
Yeah, I had credibility. I actually won the same award in 2019 for my last business.
Yes, I remember.
So I got a bit of a, you know, I made the mistake of thinking, hey, you know, raising capital, and even though I follow this industry, you know, from a tech startup perspective and all the rest of it, I'm like, look, you see people raising money every day. You know, I haven't done that before. It was one of the things I actually wanted to do when I started my next business, almost as another challenge for myself.
Yes, yes.
But that was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, because you know, every investor looks at an investment differently, right? Some people have a mandate. We only invest in companies that fit these 5 criteria. You have other investors that are very focused on different things. What's your defensibility? You know, what does your growth look like? They want to know
And specifically when you're a startup, you're high risk.
Yeah.
So it's not buying shares in a Commonwealth Bank. Hopefully they're going to go up by 5% in the next 12 months.
Yeah. So it is hard. So you have a lot of hard conversations, and they're all different too. Like I got on a call with one guy from a VC firm who spent like half an hour pretty much arguing with me about why somebody would access a digital healthcare service online versus going down to the pharmacy or the doctor themselves.
Yes, yes.
And if you look outside of healthcare, how many businesses exist?
Yes.
Your Uber Eats, your whatever, your
Everything.
any e-commerce store, right, is
Everything.
effectively solving that problem. And so I didn't expect any investor to actually be questioning that part of the model.
Yes.
And there were already some businesses doing some digital healthcare.
Yes,
So it's like the product to market fit had already been proven.
Tested.
But I spent half an hour with this. He was like, you know, maybe it's because I'm an older generation or whatever, but like, yeah, I'm like, where do I go with this conversation? If you don't believe in that model to begin with, then you're never going to invest in the business, right? So the hardest thing is you have to find, you know, firstly, it's a numbers game. You have to get as many potential investors as you possibly can, outreach to everybody that you can, you know, and then you have to find the people that align with your business, you know, have an understanding of where you're trying to go, support that. And in our case, we found a very good strategic investor through NIB who actually not only wanted to put money in and get more money back out like a VC firm or someone, but actually had a roadmap of their own that aligned very well with our business.
So they were there for long term as well.
Yeah.
You know, any startups, I always say, first of all, investing money in startups, you have to understand the amount of risk that comes with it as well.
Yeah.
But also the reward is different as well. You know, nobody invested money with you thinking they're going to make 5% over 12 months' time.
Yeah.
So anybody gives you $1 million, in their mind, they, you know, getting 5 times more.
Yep.
You know, could be 5 years' time or whatever. So besides raising money on start, when you started raising money, did you already have business that was going places, or did you raise money before you even started building it?
No, so we invested in getting the platform built, starting to get traction with our customers.
So you already started using your money. So when you went to people, you had something to showcase.
Yeah, because so I viewed it as being, you know, because ultimately I was going, how do we set ourselves up for the best chance at success and when it comes to raising capital.
Correct.
Now, there's a very big difference between...
Which is a mistake that a lot of people, I get messages on my social media every single day. Hey, I got this idea, I'm raising money.
Yeah.
First question I asked, is your idea live? No, we need to raise money to actually build it, which the risk is even greater because they don't even have a platform or the founders haven't even put any money in.
Yeah.
But in your case, you guys actually started something full stop.
Yeah. So we put money in, we built the platform, we started pouring money into marketing, hired a couple of people, started building it to get traction. Because for me, I was like, it's a way different pitch if I go into an investor and go, hey, we're growing at a 40% month on month, and we've got customers coming in, and we're growing revenue. It makes the conversation way easier, right?
And you said January this year, you had 6-7 staff.
Yep.
You got close to 50 now.
Yeah, that's right.
So even managing staff, how many staff did you have in your previous business?
About 32 when we sold.
32.
Yeah.
So you already knew how to manage people, obviously, by, hiring so many people. But how do you scale and how do you manage scaling up from 6 to 50?
It's tough, right?
In less than a year.
Yeah, it's like hiring and staffing and recruitment is tough. And the first thing for me that was really important. And one thing that I found highly beneficial by having a business where we've raised capital this time compared to bootstrapping previously is that raising capital allowed me to go and find the best people to build that foundational team.
So you didn't go and look for the best person, offer him the cheapest rate just to win him.
So we found, our CTO, for example, right? He was director of cognitive at IBM in New York for a couple of years. He's worked before us at a company called Tanda here in Brisbane, which bootstrapped their way to 100 staff. He worked CIO at Suncorp for 5 or 6 years or something like that.
So you got good people.
So I looked around Brisbane market, said who are the best people to fill out our leadership team firstly that can help us with, they've got experience with scaling teams, they've got experience with recruitment, they know where we want to go.
So that's going back to what I always say, my job is to hire people that are smarter than I am in their own fields. And I love being the dumbest freaking person in my office.
Yeah.
Because in our head office, I think we've got about 50 staff in our head office. And I always, love seeing people so capable in our office. And as a leader of my little company, my job is always to get them to think on my behalf, really, because if you're going to be a leader and thinking to yourself you're the smartest man in the room, it's going to be fucking hard to actually grow. Where to next? 2 years, you're freaking such a young company. 2 years, it's got to be massive valuation, raise $14 million, growing fast. There's a good chance you're going to end up raising more money. You're going to be hiring more people. Where to next? So how to manage the growth?
Yeah, right now we're literally in the planning phase for our next capital raise. So we're looking to raise probably another 30 mil to kickstart next year. Probably bring in another 15 to 30 staff over next year. Focus on delivering more product services. Just constant growth. Because our view right now is that in the digital healthcare market, there's a number of players who are doing well, but they're all focused on, fragmented pieces of healthcare. And the healthcare industry is fragmented. I think most of digital healthcare, us included right now, are making it even more fragmented. So the goal for us is, my view is over the next 3 to 7 years, whichever companies do the best job of building a complete health ecosystem so that you can come in as an individual and manage the majority of your healthcare from there, I think they're the companies who ultimately become the leaders in the space or the most attractive businesses.
So the race is on.
So yeah, there's a race on. There's a lot of people investing in this space and there's a lot of companies building in this space. So for us, the entire thing is a race and our goal is to how fast can we grow and deliver on that. And
but just hearing your voice, I can see you enjoying what you're doing.
Yeah.
What drives Nic? Look, the reality is you built a company from nothing to 32 staff. You sold it. And now your head is so freaking deep in the water that you're just thriving on growing this big giant. What drives you? Why do it all?
Well, as I said before, I think I just genuinely am really passionate about and enjoy the journey of trying to create something and build something, right? And I love the challenge of trying to do that. I look and go, if you asked me, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, if I would ever start a healthcare company, I wouldn't. The answer would have been no, or I wouldn't have known, right? Whereas, as I researched and got stuck into this, I'm like, here's a big opportunity. And
I think you're entrepreneur. You're looking for opportunities.
Yeah.
And I always say when you're an entrepreneur, a lot of people say, love what you do.
Yeah.
But when you're an entrepreneur, you love opportunities. Doesn't matter what field they are in, you can always, fill in the gap and thrive on actually growing their business.
Yeah, because I think at the end of the day, people who start multiple businesses, what they love is the challenge of going, I see something, how can I take something from nothing and turn it into whatever that might be, And so for us, it's like, how can we build this thing in Australia? And then how can we then take that overseas into other markets? And so one of the reasons why this really interested me and why I was attracted to this space and excited about it is because there's a really long runway where I think I will find this a challenge and interesting.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Healthcare is difficult. And so, one thing I learned with
And
my last business...
healthcare, there's a lot of money in it, but at the same time, there's also a lot of competitors that want to have a cut
and
out
regulations,
of the pie as well.
and most healthcare services, like healthcare is the only industry where someone goes, who's paying for that service?
Yes.
Is it an insurer? Is it Medicare? Is
Yes.
it private billing? It's like, there's all these other complexities
And nobody
that
wants
go
to pay
into
for
it,
it.
right? Yeah. And so that's where I'm like, wow, how cool is the challenge of trying to be one of
Put
the
the
people who
puzzles
disrupt
together.
this and create a new experience and do all that. And I can see that being exciting for a long period of time.
Yes.
Like even when I got towards the end of my last business and we got acquired at the right time because even as we'd built out and established layers of management, I started to find it less interesting than I did at the start.
Yes.
And so, and again, to your point, it's like, it's not about the money, right? I got to a point where I'm
Yes.
like, an agency to me at that point in time I wasn't getting the reward from the journey that I was in the early stage of growing it.
Which is interesting. Somebody watching this, if they're in a business and they're making money, but they're not enjoying it, what would be your advice?
Look, I think if you're not enjoying it, like at the end of the day, you need to enjoy what you're doing, right?
Yes.
And I don't think building a big business is for everyone either.
You gotta have a massive stomach for it.
You've got to want to do that.
Yes.
And if you get to a point, at the end of the day, if you can get a business to a point where it can look after itself, you can hire management in place, that's the first step to get to. Then you can make a decision about, do I actually want to spend all my time on this business? Do I want to start something else? Do I want to take some time off?
And there's one thing for sure, time flies. I mean, yesterday we were 20 years old.
Yeah.
Then, 30 and now 36. So, I always say my last 20 years, a lot of things happened in the time, but they still didn't stop me going from 20 to 43 now. And, next 10 years will go so freaking fast as well. So what we do with that time and how well we use it is so crucial. It's just that the talk just keeps ticking every single minute. There's no, hey, pause for a minute so I can breathe.
Yeah.
Still takes even when you're sleeping.
Yep, and you've got to enjoy your life and enjoy what you do. And that's what, as you can probably tell, I love what I'm doing, right? I'm
excited
passionate.
I know. Always watch even on social media as well. Doesn't matter, if it's you buying a car, you're excited. If you're, winning an award, you're excited. Looking back now, at age 36, who is running successful business now that raised a lot of fucking money. 2, you had successful company that you sold with 32 staff. 3, you probably made mistakes in business, like we all do. I think I still make them on a daily basis. Looking back now, what would you tell your 20-year-old self that's going to face all the shit you've been facing for the last 16 years?
Look, I think you just always look forward.
Yes.
Right? Like that's the thing that I think is, if I look back and I go, what has been something that's helped me to build businesses, to do that things, it's always looking forward as opposed to looking back, right? I think a lot of people, it sounds cliche to set goals or have goals, and maybe you don't write them down on a piece of paper. But if you go, I'm going to achieve this or I'm going to do that, and you just focus on where you're trying to get to, then you don't get caught up with the stumbles along the way or the things that fall behind you.
Because you're going to have that. You're going to have it.
You'll have them, and a lot of people stumble, and then they go, and then they spend their time dwelling on that, or they don't focus to the next thing. Like the whole capital raising thing, right?
Yes.
If I go out and go, I'm trying, our first raise, I'm going to go out and try to raise $4 million. Like, you just go until you get there.
Yes.
Maybe it takes 100 phone calls, maybe it takes 1,000, right?
And also you can't beat yourself up.
No.
If you don't, if you get few no's as well,
you
just got to keep looking for different strategies. And
that's part of the game, right?
It is part of the game. Which part of the game do you enjoy the most? Talk of the game.
It's the building. Like it's the building.
Scaling up.
Yeah, it's the scaling, it's the building. Like that's what I find exciting. Like trying to pull all the bits and pieces together.
Especially you're in a freaking tough industry because anything healthcare, straight away comes to my mind government.
Yeah.
It's not a car dealership where you can buy cars and sell cars tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it's more regulated than most businesses.
Yeah, and we go, well, how can we create a new healthcare experience that also delivers better health outcomes, and then go to the government and go, hey, this is what it should look like. I mean, how can we support you providing care to regional and remote areas?
Correct.
You know, right now we focus on about 20 conditions. We've been live for not even 2 years,
Yes.
and we've delivered to over 70% of regional and remote postcodes in Australia. So it's like, you know, there's a need for healthcare in these areas where people can't access it.
So tapping into the market that will actually make difference as well. Anybody that wants to start their own business, age 20, they're looking at yourself, somebody that drives Lamborghini, and they all want it today. Nobody wants to be eating shit for 15 years before they buy one. And I'm assuming you didn't buy a Lamborghini either when you were 20. You hustled, worked for a very long time, so you can be in position to waste money on it, really.
Yeah.
So anybody that wants everything now, what do you tell them?
I mean, first, you need to spend within your means, right? You know, the first thing is spend within your means, because if you spend within your means personally, then you spend within your means in your business. You know, I've seen other people who start businesses, collapse a couple of years later, and then you look at the cool fit out that they did in their office on day one. They, you know, had tried to spend their money in their business, and all of these things that actually didn't impact the performance of the business, right?
And it didn't help them get more business.
Yeah, and it's the same. So, you know, in business, you have to be patient about where you get to, and it's the same in your personal life. You know, like at one point when I started Search Factory, I was literally driving this like old Holden Ute that I had, because I used to have a motocross bike as well.
It'd be worth a lot of money if you kept it.
Yeah, probably. Not that one. The driver's window wouldn't wind down. We used to like pull up to get to the car park at Westfield Chermside. I pressed the button, pull it out. We were driving out to an event once that I was going out to ride my motorbike with my wife in the car. The exhaust fell off it. It's like that was what I was driving around when I like founded Search Factory, and that was like the last business, you know. And so I'd had all the fails along the way, but it's still like you need to be patient about that. And the other thing, you know what, it's more rewarding when you are. If you get instant gratification because you went and spent more money than you could afford to spend on something, or you were impatient and you didn't work for it, there's no reward that comes with that. Like when I went and bought my Lambo, so selling the company was great, but at the end of the day... Yellow
color, by the way.
Yellow Lambo, yeah. Match your shirt.
I know.
But yeah, like so selling the company was great, but also when you're, I don't know, say in the bank account every day for a business, like it just becomes numbers on a sheet or whatever. You're like, oh, cool, I sold the business and I got money in the bank, and you think, oh, that's cool, but maybe I thought I would be more excited by that. But then when I walked in to buy the Lambo, that was the moment where I was like, this is awesome. You know, I got a reward, but I got that because I'd worked hard for it, and you know, you felt like you've earned it. And I think if you wait, it's more rewarding.
There's a different feeling. I remember when I was in my 20s, and if I go and spend crazy amount of money on the car, and if I borrow all of that money, and if I'm stressed about it, there's no joy. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of younger kids these days, they might, you know, buy a Lamborghini age 22 just because they made first 250 grand trading crypto, and they might borrow another 150. That's called buying it under pressure. You know, I think when you work for so long, and when you can actually afford to treat yourself and not be stressed about it, feeling is completely different.
Yeah, entirely different.
Completely different.
There's no buyer's remorse. There's no regret to think, how am I going to pay for this?
No.
But the other thing too is if you're young and you know you've made some money, and you know it's not enough to have both. You've got two options, right? You could go and blow all your money on something material, or you could take some of that money and go, how do I invest that into something that will make more money, right?
Because $500,000, you know, when people make it straight away, what they don't realize, if you spend $500,000, then you're still starting from scratch again.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you spend all that money.
Yeah.
You know, would you give anybody advice? Would your advice to start a business if people have that desire? Because a lot of people are scared.
Yeah.
You know, because it's not easy to start from nothing. I mean, put yourself into somebody's 20. I'm always call it 20 years old. 20 years old. You don't have the knowledge that you have today, you don't have the resources, and you don't have the mental strength to be rejected and slapped like you have today. Would your advice still be, you know what, go, start?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I mean, again, it comes back to what do you personally want. But if you do want to have a go, if there's at least a component of you that wants to start a business and wants to have a go at it, work out how you can do that, right? Like
Yes.
there's a lot of businesses you could start where maybe you only spend 3 or 4 days a week on it to start with. Well, go get a job for the other 3 or 4 days a week.
You can still fund your life.
Yeah, you can still fund your life. Or if you have to go, all into it, well, go all into it and see what happens. Like we also live in a great country here where there's lots of opportunity. We've got Centrelink if things don't work out, in the worst case scenario. Like there's
A worst case scenario, get a job, because we are specifically now living in an economy that anybody can get job anywhere as long as they want to work.
the risk, I think that people's perceived risk is much higher than the actual risk when it comes to starting a business. And people will go and spend 100 grand on a car, not even think about it. 100 grand in a house, not even think about it. Put 100 grand into a business that might be lost, and all of a sudden, this is this wildly risky thing. Like, just go get a job, make more money. If it didn't work out, think about what you learned.
And also, how much knowledge you're going to gain by starting something.
Yeah.
By feeling all the hurdles and hard times and dealing with humans and being rejected, by losing that 100 grand, that's the best university as well. I always say, anytime I failed in the past, I see it today from this perspective, needed to happen to me, so I can learn maybe hard way some more. I won't say bulletproof because we are never bulletproof, but I feel like I'm more stable with decisions that I make today based on every failure I had in the past. So it's always a balance. What's next 5 years for you besides conquering the world, not just Australia?
Look, I mean, I view at least a couple more capital raises in that for Midnight Health. We're going, as I said, we're going full steam ahead. We're trying to conquer what we can in Australia, and then look at what do other markets look like. What kind of partnerships can we set up to get us there? I mean, waiting for my STO to arrive in August on a personal level.
We both got the same car. I think you got yours done before me, and I looked at the car. Yours is more greenish, yellowish.
Yeah, it's the it's like the lime.
It's not green. It's not yellow.
Yeah, it's the Verde Scandal.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a bit of a mixed color. So I'm excited for that. So that'll be good. And then
talk of fun stuff. Why a Lamborghini? Why not Ferrari?
So funny story. When I was going to buy my last Lamborghini, we were over in the US for a couple of weeks, and I was like, I want to go because look, I probably like you. I like all brands, right?
I like cars.
I love cars.
I'm not a car guy. I'm not a brand guy.
Yeah.
I'm a car guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just I just want a garage full of cars, right? So when we're over in the US, I was like, let's rent a 488 for a day. Let's rent a Huracan for a day. I was like, America's the only place really we can probably do that and go and thrash them for a day and see. And I got out of, I think we rented the Ferrari first, then rented the Lambo next, and then I got out of that. I was like, nah, I'm Lambo guy. At least for now.
Especially that V10 Huracan engine just freaking screams.
Just the loud wildness of it. Like that is me, right? I like that. So that's why I've gone from one Lambo to the next on order. And
now the second Lambo is coming.
Yeah. So that's it. That's what's next on the agenda. I'm actually also this afternoon after this call going to pick up one of the new Z Protos.
Oh, beautiful.
So that'll be fun. I reckon that'll be one of the last manual turbo rear drive cars that exists from Nissan. So I ordered one of them when they announced it.
Yeah, but I think the Nissan GTR that you got now, in my mind, is more fun.
Oh yeah, they'll be both fun. The Z will be better for like skid pan and fun things like that.
Yeah, but what you got right now is just so raw. As well, and this is one car that you should never sell. What else do you do for fun besides work, or is work your fun?
No, I mean, work is my fun. I enjoy it, but I have lots of hobbies. I like to do things outside of work, and I personally think that's important too. So I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Started that probably like 14 years ago. Got my black belt last year. So I train that most mornings at like 5:45 a.m. Go to class.
That's probably really healthy for you because, again, discipline is another big part in the business as well. So if you can get yourself out of the bed every morning to train and get to the point where you have a black belt as well, it's part of your discipline that helps you in the business.
I think it does. You've got to be persistent. You've got to be willing to get up on those days when you don't want to go there. Some days you just rock up and get smashed, and you just have to learn to cop that. It's part of a long journey, and it is very similar to business. And so that's why I think I love that. And it's a mental game as much as it is physical as well. So I do that most days of the week. Love cars, obviously. And then I don't get out of them on as much, but I've got a couple of motorbikes and jet ski as well. So I like to just get out.
You like fishing?
Not a fisher, no.
Have you ever been fishing, proper fishing?
Not like deep sea or anything like that.
Okay, well I got an outstanding fishing boat And actually, this will be fun for me to show you, so I can convince you to come with me. So
The level of fishing I've done is not going to be on the type of boat that you go fishing on.
this is the fishing. I'll put
Yeah.
this on the screen. So that's 120 kilo marlin there.
Yeah.
That's me taking my mates on my boat.
Yeah, looks like a good time.
So that kind of fishing.
Yeah.
It's always
Well, maybe I'd like that type of fishing.
yeah. I always say, and every time when we go, we always make sure that the water is really calm as well, so it's enjoyable. I always say fishing is good. One, teaches you how to be patient.
Yeah.
Two, when you do catch 100-kilo fish, nothing in the world matters. It's just you and that big giant fish that you're trying to fight. And again, it's clears my head, I guess. Nic, I look forward to having another interview over the next 5 years, because who freaking knows? So I'm going to be talking to you, because I think you are in a business where a company can be worth a few $1 billion over the next few years.
Yeah, that's the goal.
And then we're going to be in your garage with 25 cars, and I'm going to rock up there with one of my shitty cars looking so poor next to Nic.
Yeah, well, we can do the interview there then.
Yeah, we can do the interview there. It's been pleasure, and it's so, I'm not saying this because we're on the camera, I have interviewed enough people. It's so, for me, every single person I interview is inspiring, because it's not easy to get up and fucking go for it. Especially when it comes to, you have chosen a dangerous field because you can grow huge. And a lot of businesses, people can control how big they want to grow, because they can control how much business they're going to take. You have gone, said, fuck it, we're going big, and clearly results are showing up that you're on the right path. So, inspiring.
Yeah,
Can't wait to watch your journey more.
Yeah, well, look, thanks for having me. Awesome conversation. And yeah, look, I hope that people who watch this get some value out of it and get inspired to launch their own big thing.
And to be honest, don't be surprised if people are messaging you a lot saying, hey, Nic, we need money too, help us.
Yeah. Hey, look, I'm always happy to provide advice or help wherever I can.
Thank you, Nic.
Cool. Thanks for having me.